Welcome to Intermediate Milestone 1 for Methodical, a centralized repository for digitized standard operating procedures. So what is a standard operating procedure? A standard operating procedure is a document that is often used in high reliability organizations, such as hospitals and certain manufacturing settings, to improve performance, reliability, and safety. These documents often function as the bulk of training documentation for individuals who frequently perform high-risk work. These procedures reduce the amount of on-the-job training, which is a form of training that can increase exposure to risk and add a tremendous amount of cost to the onboarding process. Let's take a look at the requirements document for Methodical. This document provides the requirements for Methodical, a centralized repository for digitized standard operating procedures, which is built to promote engagement amongst manufacturing personnel in the creation and maintenance of standard operating procedures. The user requirements section discusses the software interfaces that a user must install, the user's interaction with the platform, as well as a description of the intended user. Required interfaces for the Methodical platform include a file server to store the procedures, Methodical server to create the procedures and manage the version control system, and Methodical client, a view server for server-side rendering. Attributes of the standard operating procedure that require version control are maintained in Git repositories, while attributes that are not required to be under version control are maintained in MongoDB. The user's interaction with the system is provided in the form of a sequence diagram in section 2.2. The user will utilize their web browser to access the Methodical website hosted on the Methodical client. From the web browser, the user will create a procedure using a form. This data will then be passed to the Methodical server, which will create a Git repository with a unique identifier. This unique identifier will be passed back to the Methodical client, which will render a step creation form for the user to enter the steps that will be required to perform the task. The user will enter their steps and submit them to the Methodical client, which will pass them to the Methodical server and add them to the Git repository. The user will be returned to a page for reviewing their procedure, where they can make edits before submitting the procedure for review. Once the steps are confirmed by the user, the Methodical server will notify the reviewers that will review the procedure. Once the review is complete, the user will be notified by the web server. Points will be awarded to the user, and if applicable, badges will be issued. Additional requirements to the user interface will be provided through a wireframe diagram, which will be discussed later. The intended user for this product is intended to be those who work with standard operating procedures in a mandatory environment such as a workplace environment or educational setting. While this product is built with manufacturing personnel in mind, it could be adapted to any application that requires documentation and maintenance of a particular process. Next, I'll discuss the system requirements. Methodical shall use the MERN stack, which is MongoDB, Express.js, React, and Node.js. Methodical shall issue badges to contributors, top performers, and users who level up. Methodical shall support multiple users for creation and for review. And Methodical shall be designed in a manner that allows for on-prem installations. Now let's go over the class diagram. For the class diagram, I'll be discussing the classes that are in blue, as they are the MVP for this project. Let's start with the badge. So the badge is an abstract class, which is used to create contributor badges, level badges, and top performer badges. 3 badges that I will implement. These badges will be awarded and will be given an award date and an appropriate badge ID. They'll be stored in a backpack, which will belong to a user. The user will also have attributes such as first name, last name, username, email, password, the backpack itself, a score, and a level, which will be tracked through the activity page. These users will utilize procedures. Procedure class is made up of a number, an ID, a title, description, attachments in the future, keywords, steps, reviewers, and editors. The procedures will be made up of steps, which include an ID, an instruction, attachments, and potentially more steps. Let's move over to the application and see what progress I've made so far. To get started, navigate to methodical.cc. This will redirect to the user login or user registration. Either of those can be activated from the nav bar, so you have user registration, user login. I already have a login account, so I'll go ahead and use it right now. Now that I've logged in, I'll go to procedures, and you can see that I created a procedure called Tech 1. This procedure walks you through the process of registering in an OMSES course. So you have that under View All, Edit, Review, Released, Create. So let's create another procedure. This procedure will be kind of silly, but let's just call it navigating or accessing Buzzport. So I'll give it a number, a title, the category, the review group as ops, so it makes more sense when you think about this in a manufacturing setting, but essentially the review group is a group of individuals that would review the procedure that gets created to verify completion and quality, etc. And then some keywords, just add those in here. That should be good. So this creates the Tech 2 procedure, log into Buzzport. So I'll go ahead and fill out a few steps real quick. Okay, so you can see I added in a few steps here. Now, let's say we navigate away from the page and we want to come back to it. Well, we have this right here, log into Buzzport. So this right here, as you can see, it's in revision. It hasn't been released yet. And you can also see that in the release tab over here. So let's go to edit. And then if you click on the particular step, you can see here, and I didn't add the last step purposefully, but we'll just say and we'll add that step. Now we'll submit this for review, and then we will look at this from so as you saw, I was logged into the basic account. Now I'm on the admin.user account. Admin's just the name of the user, and you can see this procedure right here is in review. I can actually, because it was submitted for review, I can pick it up under the review tab. Now this user is in the ops review group, which is why I'm able to see this and why I'm able to review it. But if you click here, you can see here are the steps. So navigate to Buzzport, click login to Buzzport, fill out credentials, send push notifications on 2-factor, and approve 2-factor, the last step that I just added. Now, before I approve that, I want to show something. So you have in the dashboard, you can see that I have 200 points and I have a level of 1. And I set this score at 200 so that you could see what happens when I reach the 250 threshold for a level 1 badge. And as you can see, all of the badges, they tell you exactly what you would need to do to be awarded these badges. So I have level badges, top contributors, and contributor badges, which you can look at. But let's go ahead and come back over here and approve this. So now that it's been approved, you can click on released, and you can see that this right here, this has this procedure, and you can see here are the steps. Okay, and so now if you come back over here, I'll actually have to navigate away and come back. So you can see that now my score has reached 250, my level is now 2, and I've completed the level 1 badge. And so I now have this badge showing up as a colorized version of the grayscaled images. So you can see that the badge has been awarded. Now over here, you can see that this procedure still shows up in the edit view. I can still go in and edit the procedure, but it's currently in the release state. So if I edit this procedure, it'll bring it out of the release state. But you can still see the released version in the release tab. I don't have review privileges because I'm not in the review group, but I can see the released version again here, and this is on the basic account. Likewise, I could go to the changelog and you could see what was changed. So you can see the steps that were changed. Now this isn't between saves, this is actually between approvals. So initially when the project initializes with some metadata, and then the steps were added in, and you can see those steps right here that were added in. In the future this will be a better diff view, but for now it serves its purpose. That's it for Methodical. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thanks for watching. That's it for this milestone.